r/askreddit. What grossed you out so much in a relationship that you just left? I went away with my ex and saw his toothbrush for the first time. It had black mold growing on it and the bristles were so flat the toothbrush had a middle parting. I had a conversation with him about hygiene and told him to get a new toothbrush, but when I stayed at his house 2 weeks later the cursed toothbrush was still there, so I ended it. This thread makes me feel like a rock star for brushing my teeth and taking out the trash LMAO. Edit, maybe I am a rock star? Her breath was so bad I couldn't make out with her. All I could think of was don't vomit, don't vomit. Edit, first date led to make-out session, but alcohol was involved and either masked the smell or my horniness plus liquid courage just made me not give it a second thought. Second date we ate some super spicy curries and that either dulled my senses enough or again, my horniness, and lots of kissing breaks, got me through it and we made it to third base. My horniness prevailed. Third date, both of us just went right to my place for sex and her breath just really was unbearable. She went down on me and I couldn't perform because I was so devastated from her breath that I was just trying to not vomit. She wouldn't let me go down on her, which looking back on things probably was a good thing. TLDR, her bad breath made me nauseous and impotent. My horniness could not overcome it and that was the last we hung out. Dated a guy who said even the smell of mint would make him gag. Mint anything, ice cream, gum, toothpaste. So yeah, he didn't brush his teeth. Wouldn't hear a bar of it when I said there were non-mint toothpastes on the market. I realized after over 6 months together that he was just generally unhygienic and had a specific hang-up about brushing his teeth. He told me he had memories of his mother holding him down to forcefully brush his teeth as a child because he hates mint so much, but I have to wonder if it was always about the mint, or actually the fact that the taste of mint was the most tangible part of that childhood trauma. I was dating a girl when I was younger. She seemed nice and she had 2 small cats. One weekend I went to visit her and the cats weren't there. I asked her where they were. She told me they had gotten annoying and so she put them in the car and drove to an abandoned bush area and left them. I faked an emergency at home. We lived about a 2-hour drive apart, left and broke up with her when I got home. Crying if I didn't have sex with him. Needing to be touching me constantly and eventually threatening to kill himself when I tried to break up with him. The guy texted and called for about 5 years afterwards. We dated for like 2 months. When she was so insistent about not using a condom during sex and when we were just going about our daily lives, she would constantly talk about how much she's always wanted kids all for herself. We were 18 at the time. I left her in the dust so quick. Took an old GF to a Super Bowl party with my family. We leave, she asks me if I've ever messed around with my niece. Ghosted her quickly. My now long since divorced ex-husband admitted to me, after a night of weeping, wailing, and vodka in a desperate attempt to salvage our marriage by radical honesty, that he was so hypersexualized as a teen that he had done many suspect things. Many red flags were flown. He'd been a peeping Tom. He'd considered SAing a jogger and on multiple occasions, he had fucked his 9-year-old mare quarter horse. He took my catastrophic shock silence as a chance to explain that he needed a step stool to get enough height for insertion. Suddenly, the dancer from the all-nude bar he'd been screwing was unimportant. She wasn't that bad, shit. I realized very quickly that I needed to have a friendly discussion with her for her safety, and I did in fact forget all about my heartbreak. The radical honesty was, in that sense, a success. I had gotten to the point in the relationship where he didn't mind me in the bathroom while he used it. He took a shit and wiped once. Didn't even look at the toilet paper, then started pulling his pants up. I immediately asked WTF he was doing and how TF he thought one little wipe was going to do a damn thing, and he was like, I've never needed more than one. Look, then wiped again, probably expecting nothing to be there. There was a lot there. I don't know, I guess the idea of him just carrying on with his day with shit regularly caked up in his ass painted him in a different light for me. Wasn't ever able to reignite the attraction. Probably should have been the person-sized pile of garbage in his room that made me reconsider, but I had further limits than most, I suppose. Didn't leave immediately when I was told this, but fairly soon after. She told me that she never cleaned up cat barf. She'd simply wait and let the dog eat it. Once the dog got too old/deaf/blind, she would lead the dog to the cat barf. Big nope for me. She was so rude to my friends. We went out to dinner with them and she constantly made fun of one's height, something he's clearly been insecure about. I told her to chill and then she said my hairline is far back but no one notices because I'm tall. I broke up with her the next morning. I felt so bad for my friends but they're still in my life thankfully. She was almost perfect for the first year that we dated. To the point to where I considered marriage with her. Our leases were up around the same time so we decided to move in together. Not even a month into us living together she turned into a completely different person. She started instigating fights over very small things, blowing things out of proportion, accusing me of cheating when I'd have to work late. She'd pack her things to leave but would never actually leave, just like the fight of me trying to talk her down. One day we were at a movie store in the mall together and I was looking at the back of a movie at the description. She accused me of ogling over the actress that was on the movie case. Stormed out of the movie store, left the mall, left me there with no ride home and didn't answer her phone. I got the fuck out of there as soon as I could. After I left she'd text me paragraphs of apologies begging me to take her back or she'd kill herself. Sent me pictures of her cutting herself. I had to have her number blocked. She then started stalking me at work and coming to my friend's house that I was staying at. Ended up getting a restraining order against her. When I saw his apartment, the smell hit me first, just smelled like dog pee and this strong wet musty smell. I couldn't be in there without the windows open. Piles of stuff everywhere, so much that it was spreading to the outdoor balcony and Diet Coke cans on every surface. The carpet was so dirty you could see all around the edges of the wall a little brown accumulation, and the dog wasn't potty trained. While the POO would get picked up, the pee was never cleaned so it soaked into the carpet and I learned quickly that if I didn't have shoes on I might get a wet little surprise soaking through my socks. The kitchen tile always felt tacky and greasy, he rarely did laundry of any kind, in fact I never once saw him do laundry except the one time I offered to for him. He even had a little gaming den, edit to add, Fortnite, he played Fortnite, fortunately the dog wasn't allowed in there, but again, I could see it never been cleaned once. Dirt and dust and stuff piled everywhere, cans and old plates of food left out. He told me once that he wanted to get a mini fridge for it so he never had to get up, I was adamant that he didn't. I don't care if it's his place, the next step after that is peeing in bottles. It was shocking, he seemed so put together on the outside, and then to see how he lived and this was after cleaning all day, yeesh. I don't know if that was more gross or the women don't know what it's like to work, women can't be trusted, women this women that, boo-hoo comments. Also just want to add on, no I'm not making fun a depressed person. He was pretty happy / active and could justify anything he did with ease, if anything he had a SPD. When they sent me videos of them cutting themselves cause I accidentally fell asleep for 2 hours and they were convinced I just stopped liking them and they wanted to kill themselves. Cause I took a nap. Bye fuck no from me man. The obsession with social media. It was uncomfortable until I couldn't stand it anymore, way too different views on life and priorities. Ask me had I ever attempted to seduce my stepdad, who had been in my life since I was 8. I was 18 at the time. I just looked at him in bafflement and horror before asking him had he ever attempted to fuck his adopted sister? He responded with disgust and yet still couldn't see that he had asked me something horrific. Same dude also said he didn't think anyone was really bisexual, they're just cowards who won't properly come out. When I asked him had he forgotten that I'm a bisexual woman, he smiled and said nah, I'll fuck you straight. All this said within a month of us getting together. He's an ex for a reason. He had berated me for something silly and he was still angry. When we got home, he wanted sex, I wanted to read. He pressured me, I still said no. He got angry and raised his fist to hit me. I just looked at him. He lowered his fist. I left. I haven't seen him since. It's been a decade. He was on trial for manslaughter and I didn't know until he was found guilty. He kept trying to call me from jail. Telling me he molested his younger sister and I just had to accept that. Yikers no fuck off. Edit, this happened before we met, but he never told me till last moment and that I should just accept that it's okay that it happened. I know he did go to therapy for it. That's what he told me, his sister moved out to life with her boyfriend. At a party with some of my closest friends and a lot of their mutuals, one of our friends who had recently been diagnosed with cancer was sharing some of his experience with chemo. My then GF interrupted him by saying, oh come on, it's not that big of a deal. We all probably have cancer. Moles are usually cancer. Look, I probably had cancer in all these places on my arm where I had moles removed. There were a lot of other issues that lead to it, but I broke up with her a few days later. I was just so appalled by her lack of self-awareness. These were my friends who I had known for a decade, and she'd only known them for about a year. And we were in a small group of maybe 9 people, most of whom she hadn't even met before. It disgusted me and I couldn't spend the rest of my night near her. Ended it within the week. I was on a girls' trip I booked months in advance, a festival. He showed up there and brought one of the other boyfriends with him. I hated it but couldn't do anything but just accept his arrival. Got into a fight with the girls, he did not involve them either with this surprise. Later on, he kept doing this. Internship abroad, he shows up, forcing my roommate to leave. Dinner 1:1 with my dad, he shows up. I moved out because I needed space, he books a trip we cannot cancel. Broke up with him afterwards. He kept showing up at my hometown and even work. It has been 2 years and he texted me congratulations when I got married last year, but all I can feel is anxiety about his control issues. Edit. Thank you for all the replies. This was in 2018, haven't heard from him since 2021, my wedding I forgot it is almost 2 years ago lol. Last I heard he has a girlfriend and he doesn't know where I live now. No worries. Also I think it was a family issue, his mother used to call me after the breakup as well saying I ruined their lives. Well I am glad I got out of that crazy family, no need for self-defense. I just left my boyfriend of 10 months because he purposely screams during an argument so that people in his family will hear everything going on. It is his way to make me feel vulnerable and weak. Says things like, good, I want them to hear, I want them to know how psycho you are when I'm persistently trying to end the argument and speak civilly. It was like a temper tantrum. Needless to say I left him yesterday. We were hanging out at his house just chilling. He started to tickle me, and kept tickling me, and pinned me down and kept tickling me. Since I was laughing he thought it was okay. He spent about an hour tickling me till I cried and peed my pants. Then acted like I was overreacting. We went to a restaurant, nothing fancy. She treated the server like absolute shit. As though she was royalty and the server was the hell. Yeah, that was it for me. I suddenly had zero interest in her. The kicker was, she was a waitress. Shit you not. He convinced me to stay on Skype while I was sleeping. And he'd literally talk to me if I moved an inch thinking I was waking up. What finally got me to stop was when I caught him saying to me in my sleepy days was that if he was next to me IRL, he'd stick his D in me, while I'm sleeping, and put much emphasis into doing so without my consent because you can't say no, and ride me all night long. I finally got the courage to ghost him after hearing that. It was 2 separate incidents, but long story short, one night she got super drunk at my sister-in-law's house. After spilling a second glass of red wine on my Sil's white carpet, we opted to move her glass further away from the edge of the table. As soon as we left, she screamed, like full-fledged rage, at me for not defending her. The very next time we were together, she got drunk again and accused me of trying to cheat on her. I've never cheated on anyone, and threw her purse at me. I let things calm down and explained to her that I grew up in a house chock full of domestic violence and that was an absolute line in the sand. And for that reason, I was out. Went on a few dates with a guy, was on a FaceTime call with him cooking and asked him to show me his skills and what he was making. Flips the camera to show raw chicken just sitting in the sink next to dirty dishes as he seasoned it. My brain checked out after that one. I have told this story about a dozen times on Reddit. The first night I slept at my ex's apartment. I woke up in the middle of the night to an extremely loud scraping noise. It was inside my ear. A roach had crawled into my ear and was scraping against my eardrums with its legs/antennas/whatever. It was the most awful feeling I've ever experienced. I used tweezers to try to get it out and when I pulled them out after a few times, only half the roach came out. Had to go to the ER to get the rest out and get antibiotics. I had a horrible ear infection for a couple of weeks. The worst part was her saying it happens to my son all the time. Like WTF? Found out she had 4 wrappers and trash under her bed. Clean your fucking house? It has literally haunted me and given me PTSD. When I'm sleeping if I hear the slightest noise I jump up and swat uncontrollably around my head/ears. My wife was shocked AF the first time I did it when we were dating, but since I told her, she fully understands LOL. I once dated a girl that tortured hamsters. She got arrested when I called police. I didn't even give her the honor of the text. Just called the cops, gave my testimony in court, and continued with my life. He told me after surgery that he couldn't take care of me like we planned, so he drove me home / to my parents' place. My parents ended up going on a trip they had planned, hence the need for my BF to help me, leaving me bedridden with my weak grandmom and my grandpa who had dementia. Ended up having to rescue my grandpa, which caused significant damage and bleeding to the point I needed a second surgery due to internal bleeding, which got so bad as to burst my skin. Needless to say, we aren't dating anymore. I used to mess around with this girl for like a month or so. One day I go over to her place just to chill, and then out of nowhere she tells me how a few years ago her cat got pregnant and that she strangled the kittens when they were born. Edit. She also told me how she grabbed some of the kittens by their torso and slammed their heads against the wall. Worst part is that she was smiling as she was telling the story. Found out GF had several fake social media accounts she'd use to bully strangers and harass women she knew, including my ex-wife. Instant dump. Unamused face. Hadn't even met. A lady on Tinder had every picture with her daughter. Turns out she wanted a boyfriend that her daughter could share. Her daughter was 17, legal in that state, so I didn't call the police, but I definitely ghosted. My mom died just weeks before and I was tired as fuck, exhausted, and in a traumatic phase of grief after a year of cancer treatments and all the fuss of being there for a cancer battle. The woman I was seeing told me I need to get over it and can't just be alone inside all the time. Never spoke to her again. Went through my phases of grief and have been a resource to PPL in my life that are going through similar loss since then. Grief takes time, or it doesn't, it's different for everyone. He and I had just started dating, he was going through a divorce and was low on money. I invited him up for a romantic weekend, paid for a hotel room and food, helped him with gas money, and even gave him some grocery money for the next week. All my treat, I was happy to help, and I didn't ask for repayment, just asked him to get dinner, or something, next time we saw each other, if he could. He had the absolute audacity to text me, when he got home, that I was irresponsible with money. Edit. Well shit, this blew up. To clarify a few things, I had enough of my own money that I was comfortable spending it on a romantic weekend for the both of us. I made it clear to him that I didn't expect anything in return, except if he wanted, and was able, to pay for dinner or whatever the next time we saw each other. He did go through with the divorce, and last I knew, he was seeing someone else, but I can't be sure since he has me blocked on social media like the pussy he is. No hard feelings though, this was a couple years ago and thankfully we weren't seeing each other long enough for me to be emotionally invested in the relationship. Very much a bullet dodged. It should have been the time that he fell out of the shower in our Airbnb and was extremely agitated with me afterwards for not trying to save him from falling out. He was 6'2" and 230 pounds, I was about 105 pounds and am just under 5'0". Not sure what I was supposed to do. It also should have been when he pitched a fit and deleted his FB event for his 40th birthday because not enough people had enthusiastically responded to it in the 3 hours it was up. It also should have been when he booked a 4-seat reservation at a theme restaurant and invited one of his close girlfriends, but told her she couldn't bring a guy and had to bring another girl. We weren't quite finished our drinks when our seating time had run out, and went to sit at the communal table to finish and leave. He chatted with his friend and the girl she brought with his back to me. He didn't even notice when I messaged him a picture of the back of his shirt because I was trying to make a point. What it was being on vacation with him and having him sneer at me for tipping too much, $5 CAD to his suggestion of 50 cents. You're going to skew the economy here, this is why you live paycheck to paycheck. Dude literally lost any glamour charm on him at that moment and looked like nothing but a slimy human lizard freak after that. Never been more repulsed and am still not quite over how disgusted I am with myself for dating him even a few years later. My ex would threaten suicide anytime things got tough in our relationship. Grossed me out enough that I just called it a day eventually. Cue the desperate calls hours later from the apparent overdose. She's still alive and kicking somewhere though. Annoyingly turning away in bed. Because I was crying. Due to the pain of my kidney infection. For which I later had to go to the hospital for because, it was a kidney infection. Nah man, I don't understand how people can be annoyed about their loved one's acute pain instead of alarmed. I got out of that relationship pretty quick after that. My now BF oftentimes cares more of my health than I do and tells me to go to the doctors if I have pain. Wasn't even a relationship. First date, he showed up smelling of bow and his hair was so oily that it looked like it was raining outside. Nope.